When your own child sees you as nothing but free labor, the betrayal cuts straight to your soul. My name is Loretta Jean Holloway. At 62 years old, I never thought I'd have to teach my grown daughter about respect. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. For 23 years, I raised my 3 children alone after my husband Charles collapsed from a heart attack while mowing our lawn. One minute, we were planning our anniversary trip. The next, I was planning a funeral, with 3 kids clinging to my skirt, wondering why Daddy wouldn't wake up. Those early years nearly broke me. Working 2 jobs, receptionist by day, waitressing by night, just to keep food on the table and the lights on. My hands would crack and bleed in winter from washing dishes. My feet would swell so bad I'd soak them in ice water just to be able to stand for my morning shift. But those children were everything to me. So I pushed through the exhaustion, the grief, the endless worry about money. Tanya was my firstborn, smart as a whip, with a tongue just as sharp. Even at 12, she took charge whenever I worked late, making sure her siblings did their homework and got to bed. She organized everything: lunch schedules, laundry days, who would take out the trash. Sometimes I'd come home at midnight to find little notes from her. Electric bill due Thursday, or Derek needs new shoes. Derek was my middle child, my only boy. Lord, that child could find trouble in an empty room. Always with a joke, always with a scheme. But his heart was so big. When he was 10, he gave his Christmas money to a homeless man outside the grocery store without thinking twice. He needed it more than me, Mama. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Then there's my Patrice, my baby, the quiet observer who absorbed everything. While the other 2 fought for attention, Patrice would sit in corners with her books, watching people, figuring them out before they even opened their mouths. When she did speak, everyone listened because her words carried weight. I raised them on home-cooked meals, strict curfews, and the understanding that family comes first, always. I thought I'd taught them about sacrifice, about respect. But somewhere along the way, Tanya forgot those lessons. It started small after she married Byron and had her first child. Mama, can you watch the baby while we go to dinner? Became, Mama, we need you this weekend. Became, Mama, you're staying the whole holiday, right? Now Tanya lives in a big house in Atlanta with 4 children of her own. Plus, she watches her in-laws' kids during holidays. Every Christmas, that house turns into chaos with at least 12 children running wild. And guess who's expected to help? Not asked, expected. Last Christmas, I chased toddlers until my knee swelled. I cooked for 20 people while Tanya and Byron went shopping. I slept 4 hours a night on a pull-out sofa that felt like concrete. When I mentioned being tired, Tanya rolled her eyes and said, Mama, don't be dramatic. That's what grandmothers do. Is it? Is that all I am now? A title? A function? A convenient childcare solution? My body isn't what it used to be. My back protests when I bend to pick up toys. My hands ache when I button tiny coats. But more than the physical pain was something deeper. The growing realization that my daughter no longer saw me as a person with needs, with limits, with the life of my own. I was just Mama, the woman who would never say no, who would never disappoint, who would sacrifice herself without question, because that's what mothers do. For years, I accepted this role. I smiled through exhaustion. I pushed down resentment. I told myself it was worth it to see my grandchildren's faces light up. But this Christmas would be different. I just didn't know how different until that cold December evening when I overheard something that would change everything between me and my daughter. Sometimes the most powerful word in any language isn't love, it's no. Would you have the courage to say it to your own child?
The weekend before Christmas, Tanya invited me over for what she called quality family time. I packed my overnight bag, tucked my arthritis medication in the side pocket, and drove the 40 minutes to Atlanta, watching holiday lights blur past my window. When I arrived, Tanya's house was exactly what you'd expect, pure chaos. The 4 children were running circles around the living room. Byron was shouting into his phone about some work emergency, and Tanya was frantically trying to frost cookies while checking her emails. "Mama, thank God you're here," she said, wiping flour on her jeans before giving me a quick hug. "Can you watch the kids while I finish these? Byron's boss won't leave him alone, and I'm behind on everything." No, "How was your drive?" No, "How are you feeling?" Just straight to what she needed from me. I set down my bag and jumped right in, catching a toddler before he tumbled down the stairs, wiping sticky fingers, breaking up a fight over a plastic dinosaur. By dinner time, my lower back was throbbing, but I smiled through it as we all squeezed around their dining table. "You're a lifesaver, Loretta. Don't know what we'd do without you." Tanya nodded. "Seriously, Mama, no one handles these kids like you do." The compliments should have warmed me, but they felt hollow. Appreciation from my function, not from me. After dinner, I helped clean up while Tanya and Byron put the younger ones to bed. By 9 o'clock, I was exhausted. "I think I'll turn in early," I told them, forcing a yawn. "These old bones need extra rest these days." Tanya barely looked up from her phone. "Night, Mama. Guest room's all made up." I wasn't really tired, just tired of being invisible. I wanted a moment to myself, away from demands and expectations. The guest room was small but neat, with a handmade quilt I'd given Tanya when she first married. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the house settle. That's when I heard them, low voices drifting down the hallway from the kitchen. Something about their tone made me pause. I shouldn't have listened. A proper lady doesn't eavesdrop, but something pulled me toward their voices like a magnet. I crept to my door and opened it just a crack. Their words floated clearly down the hallway. "So we'll leave Christmas Eve morning. My parents will drop off their 4 kids around noon, and your brother said he'll bring his 3 around the same time." Tanya laughed. "Plus our 4 makes 11, and if my cousin brings little Kevin, that's an even dozen for Mama to handle." "You think she can manage all of them? That's a lot for someone her age," Byron said, but his voice held no real concern. "Please," Tanya scoffed. "Mama will do whatever we ask. She always does. She's terrified of disappointing us or looking like a bad grandmother. Remember last Christmas when she threw her back out carrying the twins and she still insisted on cooking dinner? She never says no." The contempt in her voice froze me to the spot. "And this couple's retreat is non-refundable. 4 days at that mountain resort, no kids, no responsibilities. We deserve this break." "Exactly. We've been planning this for months. Mama will be fine with the kids. She'll grumble a bit, act all martyred about her arthritis, but in the end, she'll do it. She always does." They laughed together, the sound cutting through me like a knife. My own daughter, my Tanya, who I sacrificed everything for, was mocking me, using me, taking advantage of what she saw as weakness, as desperation to be needed. I backed away from the door, heart pounding so loudly I was sure they would hear it. My hands were shaking and tears burned behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. Back in the guest room, I sat in the darkness, their words echoing in my head. She never says no. She'll do whatever we ask. She's terrified of disappointing us. Was that how my daughter saw me? As some pathetic old woman so desperate for love that I'd allow myself to be used? That I had no backbone, no self-respect? The hurt crystallized into something harder, something cold and sharp. In that moment, something shifted inside me. A lifetime of putting others first felt like a burden I could no longer carry. They had a plan for Christmas. Well, now I had a plan too. They thought they knew me so well. They thought they could predict my every move. They had no idea what I was about to do. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who should know better? Have you ever reached that breaking point where enough is simply enough?
The next morning, I plastered on a smile whiter than the Mississippi River. I made pancakes shaped like Christmas trees. I laughed at Byron's corny jokes. I helped Tanya organize her holiday shopping list, all while my mind was turning over possibilities, strategies, options. "Mama, you're awfully chipper today," Tanya commented, eyeing me suspiciously as I hummed Jingle Bells while washing dishes. "Just feeling the Christmas spirit," I replied, my voice honey-sweet. "By the way, what are your plans this year? Same as usual?" She hesitated for just a fraction of a second. "Oh, family time, the usual, chaos with all the kids. We'll need your magic touch, of course." "Of course," I echoed, drawing my hands. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." She relaxed, buying my performance completely. That's the thing about people who underestimate you. They never look too closely at what's right in front of them. I drove home that Sunday with a plan forming. The moment I walked through my front door, I called Patrice. My youngest always had the clearest perspective, the most balanced view. "Mama, everything okay? You never call this late." Her concerned voice came through the line. "I need to tell you something, baby, and I need you to listen all the way through before you say anything." I told her everything. The conversation I overheard, the mockery in Tanya's voice, the plans for 12 children dumped in my lap while they sneaked away to a resort. The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought we'd been disconnected. "Patrice, you still there?" "I'm here, Mama. I'm just processing." "Are you absolutely certain that's what they meant? Maybe you misunderstood." "Baby girl, I know what I heard. Your sister laughed at me, said I was too scared to say no." Patrice sighed deeply. "That doesn't sound like Tanya, but then again what? She's always been the taker in the family, hasn't she? Even when we were kids, always felt entitled to more than her share." A memory flashed in. Tanya at 16, demanding to borrow my only good dress for a dance, then returning it stained and torn. No apology, just irritation when I was upset. The signs had been there all along. "What are you going to do, Mama?" Patrice asked. "That's why I'm calling. How would you feel about me spending Christmas with you this year? Just us, quiet, peaceful." The joy in her voice was immediate. "Are you serious, Mama? That would be amazing. Jacob and I were just saying how we wish we could see you without the whole family circus. But what about Tanya?" "What are you going to tell her?" "The truth, just not yet. Let her think everything's on track until the last minute." "Mama!"
Patrice gasped, then laughed. That's downright devious. I love it. We talked for another hour, making plans. For the first time in years, I felt a flutter of excitement about Christmas, not dread. The next day, I called Derek. My son had always been more direct than his sisters. She said, "What?" He exploded after I explained. "That's cold, Mama, real cold." "Language, Derek," I chided automatically, though at 62 I'd heard far worse. "Sorry, but I'm furious. Tanya's always been selfish, but this crosses a line. You're not some babysitter she can book for the holidays." "Apparently, that's exactly what I am to her," I said, the hurt still fresh. "You know, last Thanksgiving, when you went to lie down with a headache, she told everyone you were being dramatic for attention." Byron nodded along like he agreed. Another puzzle piece fell into place. How long had this disrespect been happening behind my back? "What are you going to do, Mama?" Derek asked, echoing his sister. "I'm spending Christmas with Patrice, but I need a favor. Can you pick me up from Tanya's on Christmas Eve? I don't want to drive when I'm upset." "Pick you up? You mean after you tell her off?" "Exactly that." Derek whistled low. "Mama's got a backbone of steel. Count me in. I wouldn't miss this for anything." With my plans secured, I waited. For 2 weeks, I played along with Tanya's charade. She called every few days with thinly veiled references to Christmas. "Mama, do you still have that recipe for your special hot chocolate? The kids will want it on Christmas morning." "Mama, can you bring those matching pajamas I bought you last year? We're doing family photos on Christmas Eve." Each call was another opportunity for her to come clean, to actually ask rather than assume. Each call was another disappointment when she didn't. Meanwhile, I booked a flight to Patrice's for Christmas night. I packed a small suitcase and hid it in my closet. I made Derek promise to be at Tanya's by 7 on Christmas Eve. A week before Christmas, Tanya called with the most transparent attempt yet. "Mama, I was thinking about Christmas Eve dinner. The kids are so excited to spend time with their grandma. They keep saying they hope you'll read them stories all day like you did last year." "Is that so?" I kept my voice neutral. "Mm-hmm. Oh, and before I forget, Byron's parents asked if their kids could stay over too. You don't mind, right? They're such good kids and you handle them so well." Not a question, a statement. Not, "Would you be willing?" but "You don't mind." "Whatever you need, sweetie," I said, the lie tasting bitter. "You're the best, Mama. Seriously, what would we do without you?" As I hung up, I thought, you're about to find out. The final days ticked by. I bought presents for Patrice and her husband. I baked cookies to bring. I confirmed details with Derek. And through it all, a strange calm settled over me. The calm that comes from knowing you're finally standing up for yourself after a lifetime of bending. Christmas Eve arrived, and I was ready. Ready to reclaim my dignity, ready to teach my daughter that love without respect is just exploitation, ready to say the word that had stuck in my throat for too long. No. Tanya's house looked like a Christmas bomb had exploded inside it. Red and green streamers hung from every doorway. 3 different Christmas trees twinkled in various corners. The smell of gingerbread and pine needles hung thick in the air. And the noise. Good Lord, the noise. Children shrieking with excitement, holiday music blasting from speakers, adults talking over each other. I stood in the doorway, overnight bag in hand, watching the chaos with new eyes. This wasn't family togetherness. This was mayhem that Tanya and Byron wanted to escape from, with me left holding the bag. "Grandma!" 2 of my granddaughters spotted me and ran over, wrapping their arms around my waist. Their genuine joy almost made me waver. Almost. "There you are, Mama." Tanya emerged from the kitchen, wearing an apron with Santa's helper emblazoned across it. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Can you help with the cranberry sauce? It's not thickening right." No greeting. No, "How are you?" Just another task, another demand. I set down my overnight bag and followed her to the kitchen, pausing to hug each grandchild along the way. My heart squeezed. They weren't at fault here. They were innocent in their parents' manipulation. The kitchen was a disaster zone. Bowls everywhere, ingredients scattered across counters, something burning in the oven. Byron stood by the sink, furiously texting on his phone. "Loretta, just in time." He barely looked up. "Can you take over here? I need to coordinate with my parents about their arrival time tomorrow." Tomorrow, when they planned to be long gone. The audacity made my blood pressure rise. "Sure thing," I said mildly, tying on an apron. "How many children are we expecting tomorrow?" Tanya and Byron exchanged a quick glance. "Well," Tanya began, stirring the cranberry sauce with unnecessary focus. "Our 4, obviously. Then Byron's sister's 3 are coming, and his brother's 2. Oh, and my cousin might drop off little Kevin, so 10, maybe 11. Don't forget my parents' youngest too. So 12 tops." 12, I repeated, nodding as if this was perfectly reasonable. "And what time will everyone arrive?" Another glance between them. "Around noon," Tanya said. "They'll probably stay through dinner on Christmas Day. You know how it is, the usual holiday craziness." I continued stirring the sauce. "And where will you two be during all this usual holiday craziness?" The kitchen went quiet except for the bubble of the cranberry sauce and the distant sound of children playing. "What do you mean?" Tanya's voice had an edge to it now. "We'll be here, of course." I looked up, meeting her eyes directly. "Will you, or will you be at that mountain resort you've booked, the couple's retreat that's non-refundable?" The wooden spoon in Tanya's hand clattered against the pot. Byron's phone lowered slowly. "Mama, what are you talking about?" Tanya tried to laugh, but it came out strangled. "You were eavesdropping on us?" Tanya's voice rose, going on the offensive instead of addressing what they'd done. "I was walking to my room when I heard my name, heard you mocking me, heard you planning to use me." "It wasn't like that," Byron jumped in. "We just needed a break." "A break is a night out. A break is asking your mother to babysit for an evening. A break is not abandoning 12 children with a 62-year-old woman with arthritis for 2 days without even having the decency to ask her directly." Tanya's eyes narrowed. "So what, Mama? So what if we wanted some time to ourselves? Is that so terrible? After everything we do all year long?" "The terrible part isn't wanting time to yourselves. It's the lying, the manipulation, the complete lack of respect for me as a person rather than a convenience." "We were going to tell you," Byron started. "When? On your way out the door? Or were you planning to just disappear and let me figure it out when 12 children showed up on the doorstep?" Tanya slammed her hand on the counter. "Fine. Yes, we were planning to go away. Yes, we wanted you to watch the kids. Is that a crime? You're their grandmother. That's what grandmothers do." "No," I said simply. "That's what some grandmothers choose to do when asked respectfully, not what grandmothers do, like it's some obligation we're born with." "So what are you saying? You won't help us? After everything we've done for you?" Her voice was rising, drawing attention from the other room. "What exactly have you done for me, Tanya? When was the last time you called just to check on me, not to ask for something? When was the last time you considered my needs, my limits, my life?" Her mouth opened and closed, but no answer came. That's what I thought. I untied the apron and laid it carefully on the counter. Both their heads snapped up. "What?" Byron looked genuinely panicked. "I have other plans for Christmas. I'm spending it with Patrice and Jacob." Tanya's face contorted with anger.
You can't do that. We need you here. What about the children? The children have parents, very capable ones, who apparently just need to cancel a mountain retreat. But our deposit is not my problem, I finished for her. Your poor planning does not constitute my emergency. The shock on their faces would have been comical if it wasn't so sad. They truly believed I would fold, that I would sacrifice my own happiness for their convenience, that I had no choice. Tanya's eyes welled with tears. Whether from genuine hurt or frustration at her plans collapsing, I couldn't tell. How can you do this to me, to your grandchildren? They'll be heartbroken. Don't you dare use those children as emotional leverage, I said, my voice hardening. They deserve better than that, and so do I. Byron stepped forward, his tone conciliatory. Loretta, let's be reasonable here. Maybe we can work something out. I am being reasonable. For the first time in years, I'm being reasonable about what I can and cannot give, what I will and will not accept. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving them stammering behind me. In the living room, I knelt down to hug each of my grandchildren, my heart aching at their confusion. Grandma's going to visit Aunt Patrice for Christmas this year, I explained gently. But I'll see you very soon, I promise. But who's going to make the special pancakes? My youngest granddaughter asked, her bottom lip trembling. Your mama and daddy will make them this year. Maybe you can help them. I heard a car horn outside. Derek, right on time. I retrieved my overnight bag from by the door, where it had sat unnoticed all evening. Tanya appeared in the kitchen doorway, her expression a mix of disbelief and fury. You planned this. You packed a bag. You were playing us this whole time? I learned from the best, I said quietly, meeting her gaze. Goodbye, Tanya. Merry Christmas. As I walked out the door into the crisp night air, Tanya's voice followed me. Mama, you can't just leave! Mama! I closed the door behind me, cutting off her protests. Derek sat in his idling car, a huge grin on his face. As I slid into the passenger seat, he gave me a high five. Mama, I am so proud of you right now. How do you feel? I thought about it for a moment, watching Tanya's front door in the side mirror, half expecting her to come running out after me. She didn't. I feel free, I finally answered. I feel free. But as we drove away, a weight settled in my chest. Standing up for myself felt right, necessary even. But the look in my daughter's eyes, the shock and betrayal, would our relationship ever recover? Had I done the right thing or just the easy thing? The drama was just beginning, and somewhere deep inside, I wondered if the price of self-respect might be higher than I was prepared to pay. How far would you go to teach someone you love about respect? And when does standing your ground turn into something else entirely? Patrice's home welcomed me like a warm embrace. Quiet, orderly, peaceful. No chaos, no shouting, just the gentle glow of Christmas lights and the smell of fresh pine from a modestly decorated tree. When I walked through her door that night, the weight I'd been carrying for years seemed to float away. Mama! Patrice hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you! Her husband Jacob took my bag, squeezing my shoulder in silent support. Did she cry? Did she yell? Tell us everything, Patrice urged, leading me to their cozy living room. Both, I sighed, sinking into their plush sofa. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her, not the other way around. Derek, who'd driven me, plopped down beside me. You should have seen Mama stand her ground, cool as ice cream in winter. That night we stayed up late talking,
Really talking about the years of small sacrifices that had gradually turned into expectations, about the invisible work of motherhood that never seemed to end, even when your children had children of their own. I never wanted to be a burden on any of you, I admitted, clutching a mug of peppermint tea, but somehow I ended up being treated like a convenience instead. You're not a burden, Mama, Patrice said firmly. You're a person with needs and limits and a life of your own. I slept better that night than I had in months. Christmas morning was nothing short of magical. We made breakfast together, opened gifts slowly and appreciatively, and played board games by the fireplace. No schedule, no demands, no dozen children to chase after, just connection, conversation, and genuine care. This is what Christmas should feel like, I whispered to Patrice as we watched Jacob doze by the fire. Like coming home to yourself. Then my phone started buzzing. Repeatedly. Text messages, voicemails, missed calls, all from Tanya. You should block her, Derek suggested when he arrived later for dinner. At least for today. But something in me needed to know. Needed to hear what she had to say now that her plans had collapsed. The first voicemail nearly broke my resolve. Mama, please call me back. The kids are asking for you. It's Christmas. The second was less emotional, more practical. Mama, we had to cancel our trip. We lost the deposit. I hope you're happy. But it was the third that revealed everything. Tanya's voice was slurred, probably from too much wine, her words bitter and cutting. You know what, Mama? You showed your true colors today after everything we've done for you, given you a place at our table, let you be part of our children's lives. And this is how you repay us? By running off to Patrice like a sulking teenager? You're selfish, Mama. Selfish and cruel. Don't expect us to forget this. Don't expect... I stopped the playback, my hand trembling. After everything they've done for me? I repeated, incredulous. Let me be part of their children's lives? Like it's some privilege they bestowed? Patrice took my phone gently. Let me listen to the rest. As she played the remaining messages, her expression darkened. Derek leaned in to hear, his jaw tightening with each word. The final message was the worst. You know what? Stay with precious Patrice. Stay with golden boy Derek. They've always been your favorites anyway. We don't need you. Byron's parents stepped up. They're real grandparents who actually care about family. Not like you. The silence that followed was heavy with shock. That's not my sister, Patrice finally said. I don't know who that is. Derek shook his head. No, that's exactly who Tanya's become. This isn't new. It's just the first time she's saying it out loud. I sat there stunned by the venom in my daughter's words. This wasn't just about Christmas or babysitting. This was years of resentment bubbling to the surface. This was a fundamental misunderstanding of what love meant, what family meant. What will you do now, Mama? Patrice asked quietly. I looked between my two children, these adults who'd grown into people who respected boundaries, who saw me as a whole person. Then I thought of Tanya, who had somehow missed those lessons entirely. I'm going to stop enabling her, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I love Tanya. God knows I love her with all my heart. But love without respect isn't love. It's possession. It's use. Derek nodded slowly. She needs to hear that. Not just from you, but from all of us. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Patrice asked him. New Year's dinner at my place, Derek confirmed. The whole family. Get everything out in the open. No, I shook my head. I can't ambush her like that. It would only make things worse. It's not an ambush, Mama, Patrice insisted. It's a family meeting. Long overdue. I thought about the years of swallowed feelings, of boundaries crossed, of love twisted into obligation. Maybe it was time for the whole truth to come out. Okay, I agreed finally. New Year's dinner it is. As we finished our Christmas celebration, a mix of emotions swirled through me. Grief for what had been lost, hope for what might be gained, fear of what lay ahead. I'd taken the first step towards reclaiming my dignity, but the road ahead looked rocky and uncertain. Would confronting Tanya in front of the family heal these wounds or deepen them? Would she hear the truth or just more perceived criticism? Could a relationship built on such uneven ground ever truly be balanced? So many questions, and only one certainty. New Year's dinner would change everything. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace or speaking your truth? Which path did you take, and would you choose differently now? Derek's house gleamed with New Year's decorations, silver streamers, glittering disco balls, champagne flutes lined up like soldiers awaiting battle. 7 o'clock approached, and my heart hammered against my ribs as we waited for Tanya and Byron to arrive. "Are you sure about this, Mama?" Patrice squeezed my hand. "We can still call it off." "No." I smoothed my navy blue dress, the one I'd bought myself for Christmas with money I usually spent on gifts for others. "Some things need saying out loud." Derek's wife Gloria peeked through the curtains. "They're here." The moment Tanya walked through the door, tension crackled in the air like static electricity. She'd brought her 4 children, but not Byron's family's kids, a small mercy. Byron trailed behind her, looking uncomfortable in a too-tight collar. "Happy New Year," Tanya said stiffly, her eyes sliding past me to greet her siblings. I stepped forward. "Happy New Year, baby. I'm glad you came." She accepted my hug with rigid arms, her body language screaming discomfort. The children, oblivious to adult tensions, ran to hug their cousins and find the snack table. For the next hour, we maintained a careful dance of polite conversation, steering clear of Christmas and its aftermath. We discussed the weather, the children's school achievements, Derek's new promotion, surface-level pleasantries that fooled no one. Byron kept refilling his wine glass, Tanya checked her watch repeatedly, Patrice and Derek exchanged meaningful glances whenever they thought I wasn't looking. After dinner, as Gloria brought out a spectacular chocolate cake for dessert, Derek clinked his fork against his glass. "Before we dig in, I'd like to say something." He stood, raising his glass. "This past year has taught us all something about family, about what it means to truly see each other, and I think it's time we had an honest conversation." Tanya's posture stiffened. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means," I said quietly, "that we need to talk about Christmas and about what happened before it." "Really? You want to do this now, in front of everyone?" Tanya's voice rose, her cheeks flushing pink. "If not now, when? When will you listen? Listen to what? More accusations? More guilt trips because you decided to throw a tantrum over helping with your grandchildren?" The room went silent. Even the children paused their play, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "Is that what you think happened?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the hurt blooming in my chest. "That I threw a tantrum? What would you call it? Running off to Patrice's, ignoring our calls, abandoning your family at Christmas? I'd call it setting a boundary after decades of having none. I'd call it refusing to be manipulated and used." "Used?" Tanya practically spat the word. "Is that how you see our role in our lives? As being used? When you plan to leave me with 12 children without asking while mocking me behind my back? Yes, that's exactly how I see it." Byron shifted uncomfortably. "Loretta, that conversation was private. You weren't meant to hear the truth," Patrice cut in. "Because that's what it was, wasn't it? The truth about how you see our mother." Tanya glared at her sister. "Stay out of this. This is between Mama and me." "No,"
Derek said firmly. This is about all of us, about the way this family functions, or doesn't. I raised my hand, signaling for calm. I didn't come here to gang up on you, Tanya. I came because I love you, because we need to clear the air. By humiliating me in front of everyone? Her voice cracked slightly. By being honest. The voicemails you left me on Christmas Day? I paused, gathering my courage. You said I should be grateful that you let me be part of your children's lives, as if loving my grandchildren is a privilege you bestow, not a relationship we all value. Tanya's eyes widened. I was upset. You ruined our plans at the last minute. Plans that hinged on my labor, my time, my energy, without my knowledge or consent? You're their grandmother. That's what grandmothers do. No, I said, leaning forward. That's what some grandmothers choose to do when asked with respect, not told, not manipulated, not taken for granted. Byron shifted uncomfortably. Look, maybe we went about it wrong. We should have asked directly. But Loretta, you've always helped before. Always. Because I love you all. But love shouldn't mean martyrdom. Martyrdom? Tanya's laugh was harsh. Is that how you see spending time with your grandchildren? Don't twist my words. I treasure every moment with those children, but 12 of them for 2 solid days at my age with my health issues, that's not treasuring moments. That's childcare. That's work. The room fell silent again. Patrice nodded supportively. Derek's wife, Gloria, gave me a thumbs up behind Tanya's back. Then came the twist I never expected. Tanya's oldest daughter, 11-year-old Zoe, stepped into the tension-filled dining room. "Mom," she said, her voice small but clear, "Grandma's right." All heads turned toward the child standing in the doorway, fidgeting with the hem of her sparkly New Year's dress. "Zoe, go back to the playroom," Tanya ordered, but the girl stood her ground. "No, Mom, you and Dad were being mean. I heard you that night, too. You said Grandma was good for free babysitting and that she'd never stand up for herself. You laughed about it." The blood drained from Tanya's face. Byron stared at his plate. "You told Dad that Grandma was getting too old to keep up with the little kids anyway, but you just tell her she was doing great so she wouldn't stop helping." "Zoe, that's enough," Tanya snapped, but the damage was done. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. It was worse than I thought, not just convenience, but deliberate manipulation, acknowledged exploitation. "From the mouths of babes," Derek murmured. Tanya pushed back from the table, chair legs screeching against hardwood. "This is insane. I won't sit here and be attacked by my own family, by my own daughter." "Tanya, please," Patrice stood. "Don't walk away from this. We can work through it." But my firstborn was already calling for her children, herding them toward the door despite their protests about missing dessert in the midnight countdown. As she reached the door, Tanya turned back, her expression a complex mix of hurt and defiance. "You know what your problem is, Mama? You raised us to believe family comes first, always. But the first time it inconvenienced you, you bailed. So which is it? Family first or Loretta first?" The door slammed behind her, leaving a ringing silence. "That's not fair," Derek muttered. "No," I agreed, my heart heavy. But that's how she sees it. Later, as midnight approached and we half-heartedly counted down to the new year, I wondered if I'd just lost my daughter forever in my quest to be seen as a person, not just a role. Had I pushed too hard? Had righteous indignation blinded me to a gentler path? Or was this rupture necessary for any real healing to begin? The aftermath of that night was nothing I could have predicted, nothing at all. Do you think there's ever a time when standing up for yourself might cost more than staying silent? Have you ever had to make that choice?
3 weeks passed, 21 days of silence from Tanya. No calls, no texts, no response to my tentative thinking of you messages. January crawled by in a fog of doubt and second guessing. I'd won my freedom, but lost my firstborn in the process. Was it worth it? The question haunted me through sleepless nights. Patrice called daily, checking on me. Give her time, Mama. She's never had to face consequences before. Derek was more blunt. She's sulking, just like when she was 5 and you wouldn't let her eat ice cream before dinner. But it wasn't that simple. This wasn't a childish tantrum. This was a fundamental breakdown in how we saw each other, how we defined family itself. Then, on a gray Tuesday afternoon in early February, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Tanya standing on my porch, her eyes red-rimmed, a tin of homemade cookies in her hands. "Can I come in?" Her voice was soft, uncertain, so unlike her usual confidence. I stepped aside wordlessly, my heart racing. We settled in my small living room, the cookies untouched between us. "You look tired," I said finally, breaking the heavy silence. "I am," she admitted. "Turns out managing 12 kids without backup is challenging." A ghost of a smile passed between us. Byron's parents tried to help, but his mom threw her back out on day 2, and his dad got overwhelmed by the noise. They left early. I nodded, waiting. "The thing is, Mama," Tanya twisted her wedding ring nervously, "I've been thinking about what happened, what Zoe said, what you said." "And?" She took a deep breath. "And you were right. I did take you for granted. I did assume you'd always be there, on my terms. And I did mock you for it, with Byron." Hearing her admit it hurt all over again, but I let her continue. "When you left on Christmas Eve, I was furious, embarrassed, trapped with my own mess. But these past weeks without you," her voice cracked, "it made me realize that I don't just need you for childcare. I need you because you're my mother, because I love you." "I love you too, baby." Never stopped, not for 1 minute. "I know, and that's what makes what we did so much worse. We counted on that love, exploited it even." The honesty surprised me. This wasn't the defensive Tanya from New Year's Eve. This was someone who had done some real soul-searching. "What changed?" I asked gently. "Zoe," she said with a sad smile. "After we left Derek's, she refused to speak to me for days. When she finally did, she said she was ashamed of how we treated you. My 11-year-old daughter ashamed of me." I reached across the coffee table, taking her hand. "And then I started noticing things," Tanya continued. "How often I call you just to ask for help. How rarely I ask about your life, your needs. How I talk about you to others like you're a resource, not a person. It wasn't pretty, Mama." "It's hard to see ourselves clearly sometimes," I offered. "No, it's more than that." She squeezed my hand. I think I've been angry at you for years, for making parenting look easy when it's so hard for me, for setting this impossible standard of selflessness that I could never live up to. Instead of admitting that, I'd started resenting you, using you, punishing you for being better at this than I am. The revelation hung in the air between us, profound in its vulnerability. "Oh, Tanya," I sighed. "I never meant to make it look easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. There were nights I cried myself to sleep from exhaustion, days I wanted to run away. I just didn't let you see that part." "Maybe you should have," she said quietly. "Maybe I needed to know that struggling doesn't mean failing."
We talked for hours that afternoon, peeling back layers of assumption and misunderstanding about how my generation was taught to suffer in silence and how hers was taught to outsource problems, about the complicated dance between independence and interdependence that all families must learn. "I want to do better, Mama," Tanya said as the winter light faded outside my windows. "I want my children to see me valuing you, not just for what you give us, but for who you are. And I need to be clearer about my boundaries, not wait until I'm ready to explode before I speak up."
"So where do we go from here?" she asked. "Forward," I said simply. "Together, but differently. With honesty, with respect, with the understanding that love isn't just what you feel, it's how you treat people." In the months that followed, our relationship transformed, not overnight, but in small, significant ways. Tanya began calling just to chat, not to ask for favors. She instituted a Grandma's Choice Day once a month where I got to decide what we did together. She taught her children to see me as a person with a story, not just grandma. And I learned to say no without guilt, to offer help freely when I could, and decline honestly when I couldn't, to share my struggles, not just my strength. Last week, Tanya invited me for coffee. As we sat in a quiet corner of the cafe, she slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a voucher for a weekend spa retreat, just for me. "You deserve a break too," she said. "Self-care isn't selfish, right?" I smiled, recognizing my own words reflected back to me. Right. This journey taught me something precious, that true love has boundaries, that respect isn't optional in healthy relationships, that saying no doesn't mean you don't care. Sometimes it means you care enough to be honest. At 62, I finally learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. It means modeling the self-respect you hope your children will have. It means showing them that love without reciprocity isn't love at all. It's servitude. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that it's never too late to change the dance, to establish new patterns, to heal old wounds, to build something stronger from the broken pieces. What about you? Are there relationships in your life where you've confused love with obligation, where you've given so much that there's nothing left for yourself, where no feels like a forbidden word? Maybe it's time to ask yourself, is this really love? Or is it time to change the dance?